Cool.
It's weird how you got to do these things modern times. I've been sitting at these meetings all day.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on, folks? We are here to talk slabs today. Caleb and I both have different ideas of why and when to slab books, and I think that there's a little something for everybody. Caleb, why do you usually send a book in?
So CGC for me, so it is a little bit about value for me as far as, I get a book, I kind of look at, how hot it is. I look at the condition of the book. I look at, different books that are, potentially going to get hot, like first appearances. I look at, some stuff, it's a little bit of speculation sometimes if it's a new line. If it's an old line, like for example, I just picked up this Wolverine 2 a couple weeks ago, and a lot of it for me is just looking at the book, looking at the value. If I'm going to see a book that I bought for, say, $100, and I, get it pressed for 10, get it sent in for 25, now I'm $135 into this book. If I get it back at an 8.0, an 8.5, and it's only worth, $150, that might not exactly be worth it to me, especially if that value is going to be lower than what I already have into it at that point. Sometimes it's better, in my opinion, to just keep it raw, either frame it if you want it in like a display type of setting, or if you're looking to possibly sell it and maybe step up to a nicer copy that you can CGC. A lot of these, middle of the road value books, really they're cheap enough that a lot of people just spend their money on the 9.8s, and then once even you drop down to a 9.6, you don't really see a lot of people buying it. So a lot of books like this, I really just look at the value, I look at what money I have into it, and just kind of weigh that cost difference. What about you?
As we both know, I'm just a ridiculous person all around, especially when it comes to CGC stuff. I sent in 20 books this year already, many of which aren't going to be worth a damn thing, to be honest. If I really, truly love the appearance of the cover, which I'm not a big cover person, there's some that just really catch me, I will often send it in just because I don't like the look as much in a picture frame as I do, with the slab on it. Some books I'm speculative of. So, for instance, first appearance, Riri Williams. I sent it in through Rhinos about 3 months ago. I got it back 9.8. That book's now going for about $300. I got it on the newsstand when it came out. The one book I waited way too long to slab was actually Ultimate Fallout 4, Miles' first appearance. I got it back as a 9.8 this year. Was really, truly impressed by it. But that had been one that I was waiting for, for my daughter to sell. So I do often slab some just to sell. Not like flip or anything like that, just knowing down the road if I ever get hard times, I could sell them.
Oh, yeah.
I now have 6 boxes of CGC comics, which is far too many. So I'm actually doing like some auctions, to give away some different CGC books really cheap so I can donate to different charities and stuff like that. Some books I do because there are certain artists out there right now where their books are just hot and they pop. And Hewitt Lee, for instance, like Immortal Hulk 17 there,
yeah,
with Spidey on his back, or Spidey on his back. When I got that, I just said, hey, I got to get this through CGC. I know at some point it's going to be a hot book. I know maybe I can do this for a charity giveaway or trade, something like that. I love trading. I've been trading a lot of newer CGC books for older books, especially on my Black Panther runs, my Jungle comics. But this book right now is going for $100. I bought it the variant for $4, off my comic shop. So sometimes look at it as an investment. Some are just older and you have to. So like Eternals, I think I got the 9 through 11 run back. Nice old books. If you get those in good shape, you're not going to find that often. And you got a lot of people trying to complete those runs.
Yeah.
And I truly do love helping collectors. So I'm on a few different sites where like they collect just fives, just 9.6s, something like that. And so if I have something that'll help, instead of, I'll just say, hey, what can we trade? Or we make a donation to this charity, whatever. I just like to help with that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm all over the place, but honestly, I'm big on appearance. If it looks cool, I'll slab it, and every now and then I go through to it. Like Deadpool 1 from the latest run, phenomenal covers. The variants are all awesome. So I got a bunch of those done. You know how I feel about Black Panther. It's my heart right there, that and Moon Knight. So if I get good Black Panther covers, I just send them right in. I don't even care. Same with Venom. What I didn't realize with the Venom, and we're all kind of finding out now, is I slabbed almost this entire run, and they all came back really good, and now they're all huge issues in that universe. So, I mean, that I can't even take credit for that. That's more just like, wow, this is an awesome-ass cover. Let me do it. And now it's paying off, especially with those variants.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Immortal Hulk run, like you were saying, a lot of the Immortal Hulk first prints are going like crazy. A lot of the Venom, Savage Avengers, some of those variants. I remember both of us buying a lot of those at the same time and saying, hey, this is a really cool artist. Let's slab them. I know we both got some really good grades off those. Yeah,
I mean, even look what we did with our Carnage and Venom books in the last year.
Yeah,
and we can turn around, if we wanted to, sell them for quite a bit now.
Right.
Especially those limited print ones that we did. So it's kind of awesome. Just my wife always says, what are you doing with all this? And I'm like, it's my retirement. And I think until recently, when I started doing stuff, like for our Pops for Patients and everything, when I started getting money to buy stuff for kids, you didn't see it, or until all of a sudden the stuff's flying, creating all the space because people want this. So I've had a lot of fun with it. I've kind of have way too many, but it's not going to stop. I actually have 2 or 3 that went in right now. I actually just sent in the first appearance of Killmonger. An example,
I think I've got like 5 or 6 coming back right now myself too. Yeah, it's crazy.
An example of like a passion slab though. So first appearance of Killmonger, it's maybe a 5 at best when I have, but that's one that I'm going to keep forever. So it's I'll slab it so it doesn't get damaged anymore. I love it. The same Black Panther first appearance. I knew it was an 8. I got it back an 8. That's fine with me. I don't need it to be a 9-8 every time.
Yeah.
Although I did hit a streak. And I want to rub his belly, Chet. I hit a streak at one point where I got 9.8s back in a row.
Nice.
Which was just, I mean, in any collector's eye, that's just phenomenal. So that was pretty cool to see. I don't get into value in terms of reselling. I get into more value in terms of trading, because I know at some point it's getting harder and harder to chase the silver and bronze stuff I'm after, especially my Namor comics I'm after. So if I have trade bait for somebody who happens to have them, but they're kind of looking to get newer stuff, I'm all about the trading.
Yeah.
Or even if I can offer, one I have with some cash or something. Because before I die, I'll complete my Samaritan run, damn it. But no, it's been awesome. I've actually traded a few slab books for my Jungle Action comics that I've been getting. I'm trying to complete that run. You used to be able to get those comics for like a quarter a piece, and now you can't find them anywhere. It's been cool. But no, you and I struck it solid with that Savage Avengers run that we had with multiple covers. Those are really hot right now.
Yeah. I think to touch on what you were saying about it's not necessarily about like resale value, but maybe even like trade value, or even just noting a book, a book that's hot. It's got to be a little bit about value, only because like you don't want to just be throwing to get a book pressed and CGC that's $35. You don't want to just throw that away on something that's going to be worth shredded newspaper, down the line. So you definitely want, at least to get your money back. You never want to end up in the red on some of this, or at least to have it go to a good cause, like doing charities and stuff like that. I think one of my biggest things with getting stuff slabbed, especially with CGC as opposed to something like CBCS, is when you're the authority when it comes to value, and you're the authority when it comes to condition and stuff like that. To be able to post a raw book up and have someone say, oh, that's only a 5.0, I'm going to offer you this much. Or someone say, oh, I bet you I could press that up into a 7.5, what have you. To have CGC say, nope, this is the value, there's really no argument anymore. There's no, there's really no discussion about the value. CGC said it's this. And really in this community, no one really argues that too much, unless I've seen a lot of people say, oh yeah, I can see that book. Let's crack it open. Let's get it pressed and maybe resend it back in, and maybe we can get a little bit better grade.
Jeanette,
what
questions you got?
Do some questions. But yeah, like, and I think that's why there's a little bit of that difference between companies like CBCS and CGC. Is CBCS has a tendency to be a little more lenient when it comes to value, and CGC is just so much more strict. So a CGC 9.8 is in theory going to go for more than a CBCS 9.8. You could get the same value, but generally you're going to see a little bit dip in the price if it's CBCS.
I've always been kind of a snob with it, so it's like I'll look at one, but you know, and it's always, maybe it's just in my head, but I remember somebody gave me a CBCS book one time. They were so excited to give it to me, and I just said, "Oh, thanks." You know, the gesture is awesome, but I immediately track it and send it to CGC.
Yep.
And that could be me, it could be my bias, but I've always found that they kind of are the standard. So
yeah.
Why it's so hard to get books to them to begin with.
Yeah, I don't think it's snobbery. You know, I think it's just, you know, we know the authority, you know, in the market. If the authority ever switched over to someone else, I feel like, you know, eventually we would, you know, switch over to them. I think it's just, we have such a passion for, you know, for the hobby itself that, you know, we really want the best value, you know, kind of the best person looking over our books. Like I've got the Heroes for Hire, you know, one with first appearance of Luke Cage. And, you know, being able to have someone say, yep, that is this grade, versus a company where people are just going to argue about it, whether I get it slabbed or not, you know, kind of thing. To have CGC say, oh, that's this grade, and to have, you know, the authority kind of put their stamp on it, and that no longer becomes an arguing point really in the community, whether it's the Comics Lounge or, you know, just, you know, the comic community as a whole. CGC's kind of been just the godfather of, yep, no one really questions this. If it's a 9.8, if it's a 9.8. If we say it's a 9.6 and not a 9.8, you can kind of be grumpy about it if you want, but you really can't argue it, you know?
I will say I've had some reservations about sending books in at times too, because I've gotten books back that definitely weren't what I sent them in as. And so that...
it's always hard when you're shipping stuff and someone else is handling it and they don't necessarily care, you know?
Oh yeah, so I finally found a shop that I actually trust to get them there and get them back. And I've only had a couple that have come back worse, but I knew it wasn't the shop's fault. It's, you know, sometimes just who's working at CGC. Oh, what do we got, Jeanette? Alternatives to preserving comics or displaying them in those UV cases, but is it worth the money to CGC just for the... All right, so this is where Caleb and I tend to differ. I am a very frivolous spender when it comes to comics. So I will CGC to preserve, but you can just do the UV cases or the frames. Caleb, you have a bunch behind you, right?
Yeah,
your frames, the comics.
I do a lot of these UV frames that keep the comics nice and pressed. All the corners really nice. And it's UV protected too, so you're not going to get any of that like sun bleaching or anything. They run between 10 and $15 at Rhinos, and yeah, I've got dozens of them.
Now, while Caleb likes to look at and appreciate his stuff, I love to shove it in a box and take it out every now and then to remember, oh yeah, I have that. So I'm the CGC type of for that. Especially, I love it when, so my buddy Rich, he's been collecting for a lot of years, and anytime I say a book, he's like, oh, I think I have that. So I love having to have that feeling and then go upstairs and be like, oh, I do. It's also, I've given so many books to like kids over the years where it's like, you know, you're interested in that? I think I have that. So that's kind of cool. It's also like Caleb and I have talked about certain issues. I'm like, oh yeah, that's in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it gives me a mission. I get to go find the CGC book. So I don't think it matters. It's more of a preference. I find the CGC stuff to be neater based on the collection I have. A lot of my pictures and stuff are in like big frames because a lot of them are customs and stuff. So for me, that wouldn't make sense on the wall. And now if you dedicate a whole wall to it, it makes sense. Jeanette, knowing that you love to decorate and appreciate, especially your Loki stuff, I think that having it out in a frame would be perfect for you. I think that makes sense for you. Especially you're not looking to sell those. It's for your own personal stuff. I'm just an idiot. Ask my wife. I just piss away CGC cash. So I think frames for you might be better. It's more of me. I do it mainly because of how I collect. So it really isn't a better way to do it or teach their own kind of thing. Now, Caleb, what books do you think currently should be sent in for CGC?
Currently, man, anything Venom. Honestly,
Yes.
anything Venom. The first appearance of, and I am completely blanking on the name right now. There was another symbiote introduced in the Venom line. And it was there was another
CGC, the null issue.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the variants are hot. Any first appearances, anything null right now. Really, a lot of the there's some cool screen variants right now that are really hot. Anything Immortal Hulk, especially if you get the first prints, those are really hot right now. Some of the Savage Avengers stuff, more of the variants than the trade dresses. Those are going for a decent amount right now. Man, there's so much that I'm not even tapped into when it comes, because I set my blinders when it comes to symbiotes and Wolverine, and that's pretty much it, because I don't like just spending, $800. Well, sorry, Chad. I don't like spending $800 every time, I go to Rhinos with having, a 2-page full list kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of really hot issues. Negan Lives, that's another one that I would consider putting in. That one is really hot right now. Empire is really hot. That's one I can definitely see, maybe it's not worth a lot right now. 5 years down the line, it could definitely be worth, 3 figures or so.
I have a feeling with this Empire Fantastic Four issue. I think that it's an issue you can get first print of right now. I'd say in about 3 years, it's going to have some value to it, especially because people are chasing this. Because it is finally Marvel has some good writing again.
Right.
A book you can get on the cheap to send in right now that I'm seeing the price go up and up with is Shuri #1, because they did print so few of them because they didn't think people would be into them, but then comic shops couldn't keep them.
Yeah, and like that, I still have the whole line of first prints from when we were getting them, and you sent yours in, didn't you?
No. Oh, yes. I sent in 1 through 5.
Yeah.
And those are all pretty hot right now. And I know it's not the first appearance of Shuri. However, it's the most likely adventure we're about to go on. So it makes a lot of sense. But that's the first Shuri that the younger crowd has seen. And so that's what they're going to grab towards too.
Exactly.
To be honest, I haven't struck out with any Venom or Carnage book, regardless of what issue it was at this point.
Yeah.
Jeanette's asking about cover art. Jeanette, you collect a lot of art germ. Those are definitely something to do. And actually, if you look at it, so if you look at the artists that do limited prints, like I mentioned, our guy Lee here, who did this and a lot of limited books through my comic shop, there isn't a single one at a 9.8 that's worth less than 100 right now.
Yeah.
Scotty Young, if you can get a CGC of 9.6 or above, there's a market for that. Also, I happen to love Scotty. Mike Deodato covers that Savage Avengers that he did.
Yeah.
People were chasing that hard. So there are some artists that people are really after.
But even with that, when you start getting into stuff like, so Scotty Young, he's what I would probably describe as a niche artist, just because he has such an outrageous style.
Leave my comic babies alone.
It's definitely not for everyone. So I feel like if you're looking for value, something like that might be more of a niche kind of market, just because it is a little bit out there. Hi, Zoe. And
I tend to look at who do they have at the cons with CGC. Yeah. Who do they have going through these comic shops? What artists are they using? Because those are clearly the hot ones that where limited prints are going to be worth something. Who did that Carnage version that we did? Do you remember it? I can't remember at all who did it, but they were really hot at the time, especially with their Carnage books. And so now you could actually end up selling those. If you're in for value, you definitely can. It is a timing thing, Jeanette. We don't have the classic age of books where certain people did certain characters. It's kind of all over the place now. So it's much different now. It is about timing, unless you get those consistent ones. Like if you get a hot Deodato issue, that's going to, that's not going anywhere.
Deodato.
Yes, that's the one. that just flew off the shelves. First print you can find, really. If we didn't have it on our pull sheet, we wouldn't have had it.
Right. Now the thing with that is, though, so Jeanette, you asked about ebb and flow. Yes, there's ebb and flow just like with anything. I mean, we saw huge ebbs and flows with the Funko Pops. Same thing, just not maybe as dramatic with the comics. So, for example, this exact issue, we saw skyrocket into 3 figures, and now it's settled. I think it's around probably between 50 and 80 for a 9.8 right now. So we saw
that got up to like 275 at one point last year.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's definitely ebb and flow. It just, unlike Funko Pops and like some of the shorter term collectibles, you're gonna see those skyrocket $100, and then go down to nothing, in a couple of weeks.
The other thing to consider too is a lot of people go with projections, and so if they think that first issue is gonna be a big thing, then they're gonna pre-order the hell out of it, which sends up all the sales, and it sells it out, and projections are there, and they're also like, oh, this is nothing. Like Major X #1, for instance, it was, everybody's like, oh yeah, the book. Got it, CGC'd it, now I can't give that stuff away in a public bath.
Yeah,
so
I bought all that line, and I remember you sent in at least the first issue, I believe, and I remember kind of being on the fence, and I was really waiting, kind of using you as a guinea pig, waiting for you to get yours back and to see how it sold, and I never sent mine in.
That was the one speculation I completely struck out on the last few years. That was bad. But it's one where if he ever gets a movie, then hey, I got this book CGC and I could trade to somebody for something decent.
Right.
I personally I like to preserve greatness. So there's certain books that I'm chasing that I want to preserve their integrity of that book. If it's one I've read 100 times, something like that, and I just really want to save it. But I mean, I also, you've seen my collection. A lot of this is going to be Zoe's retirement. I'm going to be in diapers one day, and she's going to have to pay for my nursing home stuff. And so she can do it with this instead of breaking the bank. Or she'll just off me down the hill. I don't know what she's going to do with it. But some of it's investment. The other part's just fun and collecting. I mean, many times I've given out gifts for birthdays, Christmas, just a CGC book to like a new collector.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody who's been collecting for years, and it means the world to them. So not CBCS, but CGC. And it means the world to them. So I love having them around. For me, it's worth the investment if I can get a smile out of it or just something great. I don't know, but
it's all part of the experience, and it's one of those things. Some collectors, they don't touch grading, they only deal in raw. It is really personal preference, really what you're trying to do. You don't want to create a money hole for yourself where you're not, either making your money back or you're just throwing money toward books that don't really have any sort of future. So you're putting, $50 into a book that's going to be worth $5 graded, stuff like that. So yeah, you definitely want to be careful, and really value is a big thing I'm on as well. I've got a lot of pointers throughout especially the last couple of years, as far as, condition, what to look out for. Like I said, if you have a question about value, if you have a question about, oh, what about this book? I know this issue's hot, but I'm not sure about this, damage in the cover or, what have you. Bring it to Dan, bring it to me, bring it to Chet at Rhinos. This is a lot of what we do with our comics. So, we have more of a trade die when it comes to, oh, I see this book has, a couple of color breaks right here that, really can't be pressed out or repaired. So that might be, this value or that value. So there's a lot of, like you were saying, Dan, there's a little bit of speculation when it comes to maybe a perceived value or something, but there are definitely people out there that have more trade die that can, lend a hand. So don't be afraid to ask questions. We love the community. So
if you're not willing to press it, you might not want to grade it either. If that's a little bit too much for you, that kind of lets you know too.
Yeah.
And Jeanette just asked the question about pressing. You don't have to, but if you're not,
it's worth the $10 or $12 or whatever it is. It's worth that little extra money.
Oh, I apologize. I had a phone call, so I don't know if that cut off. But
Yeah,
did you hear what I just
you
said?
cut off. No, you cut off.
Okay. So in terms of pressing, if it's up for a value reason, then yes, press. If it's just a preservation for you, no need to press. If you're not too concerned about the grade, or even if it's an older book and you're just saying, hey, let me send this in and see what I get, that works. I generally say if you're gonna get it graded, then take the time to press it too. Give the book the respect it deserves. That could be the difference between a lot for you. So it'd be worth checking out. Unfortunately, I have to run to a meeting. That's what that phone call was about.
Not a problem. It was a good talk. I'm sure we'll have more of these down the line. Maybe we could do an in live kind of thing, maybe at Rhino sometime where, we have 5 hot issues come in and we can kind of go over some things to look at value wise or, what have you. So yeah, it was fun. Hope it was informative. I just realized looking at my computer that I guess half my head was cut off the entire time. So I apologize for that. But yeah, it was fun and hope you guys learned something.
As always, keep it casual.
Oh yeah, guys. All right. Peace out.